in the next few weeks or days. It's going to happen early 2024, regardless if it happens in January or not. 2024 is bringing about a Black Swan event to reset the world.
Craig, in December of 2023 of COP28, 198 parties or leaders, 198 all met. And to me, that was a setup for the tribulation, because when you see what happened as an outcome of all of that, and some people who have, watched some of our previous shows said, oh, what happened? Well, a lot happened that you have no idea about. I mean, really, if you honestly think 198 leaders and more people came together and nothing happened, more happened than ever before. And we're going to be revealing some of that in documents, and also what's coming up in 2024. All of this stuff is converging, and there are events that are happening in 2024. It's all a setup for the tribulation. Okay, Craig, what's going on?
So on December 13th, the world agreed upon a 7-year deal. And here it is right here. And I have the full document, and it's 21 pages. And so we have a 7-year agreement that we can say, hey, this is possibly the covenant that gets confirmed by the Antichrist. And that is being played out as we speak. And we'll get into that later in the interview. This agreement is acknowledging that climate change is a common concern of humankind, and that the parties should respect, promote, and consider their respective obligations on human rights. The right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, the right to health. They want to control your health.
That I'm seeing that, that has been huge in this whole thing, more than ever before.
Yeah, this was the first summit ever to have a whole day devoted to people's health. And so that's a huge agenda, and they're going to push this significantly in the next 2 years. So we know based on that, we can assume there's another 2020 event coming in the next 2 years.
Right.
They also recognize the fundamental priority of safeguarding food security and ending hunger, and the particular vulnerabilities of food production systems to the adverse impacts of climate change. So they want to control all food and production. That includes farming as well. So the farmers are going to have to implement certain farming practices, or they can't farm that crop. So I'm going to, for an example, Frito-Lay, the growers for Frito-Lay potatoes have to adhere to their rules, to the government's rules, or they can't sell their crop.
Yeah, the thing that I found interesting with this COP, and they're bragging about it too, is that they said we finally are really, really doing something about the food and sustainable food. But of course, part of that is fake meat. Part of that is food that is not good for us because made with chemicals, but we'll get into more of that too. And even I want to uncover some stuff from documents of what they're saying. But they are bragging about this food issue now.
And if you go to the meat department now, you have to make sure you have bones with your meat. So if you I'll give a typical example. If you go to McDonald's and get chicken McNuggets, or Burger King and get chicken McNuggets, that's processed chicken meat. You probably don't want that meat. You want the meat that's on the bone. And even then, they're feeding these animals GMO products to fatten them up for market. So even then, you got to be really selective on your meat if you want to eat healthy. And you can go ahead and eat it, but we can see in America, for example, what it's done with people that eating this kind of meat fattens them up too.
Right. And so all of this they say, is part of climate change, of sustainable food, and yet it's all food that's bad for us. Like none of this makes sense. But okay, keep on going.
They even have, by the way, plastic ice cream, that you can now eat this plastic ice cream. I think it's in the UK where they've made plastic ice cream. So it's actually oil products, and you can eat this ice cream. And it's a way to get rid of this product, and it tastes good.
Oh, and so what is that, their way of getting rid of dairy?
It's one way to replace dairy.
Right, which don't get me on that whole oil thing, what that does to the human body, but forget it. Okay, go on.
And I went to 31 flavors the other day, and looked, and one flavor is plant-based. So I was like, here they are, they're pushing this plant-based right in front of you.
And now that could seem good. I mean, if it's made out of almond milk or if it's made out of oat milk, but the thing is, when they say plant-based, it's a lot of times there's all these chemicals. So, but anyway, a lot more happened in Dubai, and I wanna and their plans. So we're going to be uncovering more and more. Keep on going.
So they also recognize a critical role of protecting, conserving, restoring water systems and water-related ecosystems and delivering climate adaptation benefits and co-benefits while ensuring social and environmental safeguards. So here we go. It's total control of your water, and you're not going to be able to go here or you this place or that place because they need to conserve water, or you can't use this water source for your field because you need to save the minnows in the stream. So that we've seen this before, but they're going to enhance this within the next 2 years. There's a strong implementation of this.
So, and also I know what part of their plan is that 30% of the world's water and land would be off limits.
Yes, 30% of the world's land and water will be off limits. They're discussing in the UN now how they're going to do massive land grabs of the private sector to save the earth. So
Right.
that's discussion now. No action's been taken. But if you go to Holland, for example, they're already implementing this.
Yeah. And the thing is, land grabs, let's talk about the United States. I mean, China is buying up so much of the farmland. I mean, I even talked to a farmer and he was just like saying how they're, enticing how much they're paying, per acre. So they're really enticing people to give up their land. And then this way, the land is not going to be farmed. So they talk about poverty and they talk about all of this trying to help the poor. Tell me, how are they trying to help the poor when we don't have any farmland? But
And we have Bill Gates also buying up farmland, and he's bought up land where I live. But what's going to result is he's not going to farm it because he's just going to get carbon credits for it. So if you don't farm, you get paid not to farm it, and you're doing fine.
yeah, so it totally doesn't make sense. Okay, tell me more that came out of
So
the Dubai.
they're noting the importance of ensuring the integrity of all ecosystems, including forests, the ocean, mountains, and protection of biodiversity is recognized by some cultures as Mother Earth, and also noting the importance of climate justice when taking action to address climate change. So here we have this mother, and they're mentioning right in their document that this is Mother Earth worship.
Now, okay, and which document is this again?
This is the UAE consensus.
Right, right. Okay, so yeah, the UAE consensus, which came out of COP28. And speaking
Yep.
of Mother Earth, that uh, image that you sent me was extremely alarming on what the COP28 app. What was that?
There's a COP28 app you can download on your iPhone, and it's produced several interesting images in the last month. The first one was the Tree of Life, where everybody pledged their trillions of dollars to save the earth. So you bow down and you pledge your money in front of this Tree of Life image, and that was only available on the app. Now there are some videos out now that show that this where the Tree of Life was positioned, but it was first available on the app. And then second, now that this conference is over, they have this image of this reptilian woman. You can call her a snake or reptile or dragon, whatever. And it says, "We made every minute count" of COP28. And I'll show you an image of it right there.
Yeah, no, she looked very much like a witch.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that going on at this thing. So there's a lot of people dressing up in their indigenous outfits for Mother Earth. That's where they're going with this. So they want to use nature and the ecosystems for effective, sustainable climate action. So we have the 17 goals, and that's what they're trying to push on their agenda at COP28 and beyond. So it's for the next 7 years. We can go over those again in
Yeah, just yeah.
in a different format.
Okay, yep, that'll be great. So, yeah, because even if we've heard them before, you're going to do it in another format, and then we're also going to be really uncovering other things that have been in documents that were a result of the COP28. I also want to just like read this comment from the president, Dr. Al Jaber. And he's the president of COP28, correct?
Yes, he was the president designate of COP28.
Okay, so this is the thing. He said, we have worked very hard to secure a better future, but he said the world needed to find a new way. And by following our North Star, we have found the path. And basically, he had said, we finally got somewhere. We finally, we came together, we delivered, and it's like they feel like because they all came together now, they have the plans now, and they're also making sure that each country will implement these plans, which will keep stay tuned because we're going to be talking about it. And also, for those who please subscribe to our channel because I'm going to be having Craig on more and he's going to be giving more updates. So you don't want to miss any of the information that's coming out. Okay, keep on going, Craig.
So the first goal is to end poverty in all forms everywhere worldwide. The second goal is to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. We just talked about that, how you have to follow their form of farming. The third one is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all ages. The fourth one is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all.
Ooh, 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 ooh. Don't even go on because I'm seeing how they also bragged with this cop about how they're really getting the youth involved more than ever. And I also saw it on a White House document that they're now saying that the federal government's going to be implementing in all of education, from kindergarten and through the universities to make sure everyone is being educated about the climate. And so they're really getting the youth on board more than ever. And yeah, so yep, keep on going.
So the fifth one is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. So we've seen a push for that for the last 30 years, significant push for it. Number six, ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. So total control of water.
Okay, and when they control us through, are they going to start taxing us more? Are they going to start charging us more for use of water? What do you think?
Well, your prices for everything's going to go up here significantly in the next couple of years. I'm in California right now, and the prices here are extraordinarily high. So for a soda, for example, in Washington State, is you can get two for $3.33, and the state of California for the same soda is almost $4 a can. The seventh one is to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. That modern energy is wind power and solar power and battery power, lithium. And so you have to remove huge portions of Earth to get enough lithium just for a battery. And so they're actually destroying the Earth doing this battery power.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I order products and they'll have lithium on it, they will lithium in there in the battery. Do you have you seen this too? So on the outside of the box, it's like this warning, and I'm like, okay, this is what they're using. They're saying that it's going to help a climate, but they have all this whole warning about how you would have to dispose of it and all of this, and it makes no sense. But go on.
The eighth one is to promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. That means everybody's working for the same pay. And state of California for your local fast food chains, as of April 1st, everybody is at $20 an hour.
So those starting out and manage. I mean, how is it just going to be like?
That you start out at $20 an hour in the state of California in your fast food restaurants as of April 1st.
Yeah, and meanwhile,
Washington State, for example, is at approximately just under $17 an hour, and
right,
that's as of January 1st.
right, which a lot of companies won't be able to, stay afloat with having to pay that much money or
I
a
believe
lot.
it was Pizza Hut has in the state of California has gotten rid of their drivers because they can't afford to pay them the rates and do deliveries, so they just get rid of the drivers.
And then the next plan will just be having probably robots doing everything, so no one will have a job.
Yeah, that's where we're headed. So I've worked for in the past business owners that are in production and they think how to cut employee costs. So they're replacing employees with robotic machines that do all the work in order to cut the wage bill that they have all the time.
Right. So then their plan would be that all these people can't work and then just they can rely on good old government.
Good old government is the way to go.
Right.
Don't.
And then
And
have,
I'm saying that sarcastically.
yeah, right. And good old government will tell you how to live and what to do. But anyway,
Yep. Ninth one is to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. In the state of Washington, for example, all new construction has to be ready for EV hookup. So that's solar power or wind power as of last July, actually.
Right, because their goal is to get rid of anything that is with oil and coal and gas.
And dam power. So they want to tear down the dams. They're not having very good progress with it, but they want to remove the dams and go with wind power and solar power.
Right, and wind power. And if we don't have any wind, then oh well, you're out of luck.
Yep, can't go anywhere. Can't heat your house. And we saw how that resulted in Texas a few years ago. Number 10 is to reduce inequality within and among countries. So they want, once again, everybody's equal. Poor countries versus the rich countries. There's just a communist agenda.
Yeah, now speaking of that, when you read a lot of their writings and everything, they'll talk about how we, who are in the first world, that we are the ones causing the problem for the third world, and that's why we really need to give up, the way we're living, give up, like we said, the oil, the gas, and because we're causing a problem for the rest of the world. So they want to make everything equal, but go on.
The next one is to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So there we go. Our 15-minute cities. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, now I know we've talked about that, but so did you say in the past that Phoenix is like the first 15-minute city they have a
Phoenix has one 15-minute neighborhood city already in place, and they're the first city in the U.S. to do so. There's maps of other cities have maps, such as Seattle, how they want to map it out, which is still yet future. They need it to enforce it. They need another 2020 event, and then it'll be enforced at that time.
right
And
because
actually,
then
where I am in California, everything I need is within like zero 0.8 of a mile. So it's like 1 kilometer. Everything I need is right here.
oh my goodness, so that's what they want. So people will have to they'll go nowhere. Um and I know that also you said what in Seattle there's like a push for people not using their cars, but for public transportation, right?
Oh yeah, there's major push, and in fact, across the I-90 bridge going through Mercer Island, they're putting in public transportation on the middle bridge, and that'll be all railway going between across Lake Washington.
Right. And then the other thing that we're seeing all over, and I'm seeing it here where I am, is the bigger sidewalks. So there'll be more bike lanes.
The bigger sidewalks that go nowhere, so you see a lot of people not using them at this point.
Hmm, hmm.
And you see that in the state of Oregon. So if you I took so if you travel Eastern Oregon, they have these huge bike paths, and I saw absolutely nobody on them. So it's a lot of money spent. It looks nice, nice idea, but nobody's using it.
Right. Money, yeah, money spent. That's really helping the poor, but okay. And tell me the next one.
And the next one, number 12, is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. So they're going to manage your waste. And if you're buying too much food and wasting your food, they're going to penalize you.
Yeah, so that was another thing that I saw in some of the documents is that they're wanting to monitor us more than ever before, and that each country will be able to have a plan, or that they already have a plan in place on how they will be able to start monitoring us more.
Yes, that plan actually has to be in place. We'll get to that. How soon that plan has to be in place,
Yeah,
but
I know
it's
that it's
very
pretty
very soon.
soon.
So it's very very soon. So probably it appears it to be by the Summit of the Future come September. So I think their plan has to be in place by September.
Right, each country's plan.
Each country's plan,
Mm.
and I predict, because these people are never on time, that some countries won't be ready to have a plan yet. But that's just the way it goes. The next one is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts, and that's the all seeing eye. So they want to control everything and see what everybody's doing. The 14th one is to conserve and sustainably use the oceans and seas and marine resources for sustainable development. So it's control the oceans, control the seas, control marine resources, control. 15th one is protect, restore, and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. So control of all land is their 15th goal. The 16th goal is to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. And the 17th one is what we saw at COP28, strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. That's what's going on right now, and it's still in progress. So this event that happened at December 12th is still in play, and with an unknown date where it's going to be strengthened by King Charles and the Sustainable Markets Initiative.
Right, which then you believe then would be the beginning of the tribulation,
That'd be the beginning of the tribulation, and we have an unknown date for that, but it's promised to begin in early 2024, and that could be next week, that could be the week following. We just don't know.
I just want to say this, because I've had different people's comments, and Craig, I know you believe that could be the rapture, correct?
I believe that would be the rapture of the church at that time, or just prior or thereafter. So it's somewhere around that point. Not everybody's going to look at it the same, and I'm well aware of that. So some people are watching. That's the beginning of the tribulation. I think we all agree that's the beginning of the tribulation. Or majority of us, that's the beginning of the tribulation, and that's what I'm trying to alert people to, is say, hey, this is the start of we got a 7-year covenant in play. They're stating they're going to confirm this covenant in the next few weeks or days, and we'll get to that a little bit later. And then there's 7 years thereafter. There's actually a clock on focus2030.org that states we're now under that 7 years. They were playing around for a while, adding time and taking away time, but now we're under that 7 years. But if you look mathematically at Bible prophecy, we're still in that window of approximately 2,550 days required by Daniel the prophet. And some people will say 2,520, and either way, it's still seven years. So we're very, very close to this 7-year tribulation starting any day.
Okay. And like you said, it's still, whether the rapture is going to happen then or not, we're all can agree on that everything is converging. I mean, even with Israel, there's so many signs, they're all converging at the same time, that the tribulation is like so close.
We have two wild cards in play right now. So we have the confirming of the covenant, and that's not yet done. So we had the strengthening of the covenant. So we can all agree that they strengthened, or probably agree that they strengthened this covenant for 7 years. There's a 7-year agreement I have right in front of me.
Yeah,
but it's not yet confirmed. And if you go to Sustainable Markets Initiative linked, they're telling you how that's going to happen, and it's through the Sustainable Markets Initiative, and that's still in play. That has not happened yet. At the end of 2023, they made that very clear that that's how this has to happen. So King Charles SMI gives what happened at COP28 the action needed to go forward.
Okay, and say what SMI is for people who don't know.
SMI is a Sustainable Markets Initiative, or you can look up the website at sustainablemarkets.org, and that's the King Charles website. He'll give his press releases as they come in on that website. Terra Carta is part of that. The action plan to move this thing forward is called the Terra Carta Accelerator. And it's a 7-year plan, 10 mandates or principles per year on land use and water use for the next 7 years. So for a total of 70 mandates.
Right. So the first 10 are going to be coming out soon, but we don't know when, correct?
Yeah, we don't know when. We can assume January. Based on where we are right now, it's possibly his next press release, but I can't say that 100% dogmatic. But the way that the SMI works, they do press releases on average once a month. Sometimes around COP it was several press releases. But the next press release could be the confirming of the covenant. So it's going to happen early 2024, regardless if it happens in January or not. But they've stated that the law firm that's writing up this document is called White and Case. And so you can go to White and Case and maybe you'll see updates there. It's an international law firm. And that's the think tank behind these 10 mandates is called the Pollination Group. So King Charles has put the Pollination Group in charge, and that's a group of individuals that brings together the brilliant minds to pollinate bold new ideas for 2024 through 2030. And that this plan that they present will accelerate the transition brought about from COP28 transforming our economy and financing systemic change through 2030. And you can go to the pollinationgroup.com and their website's right there, and they'll update as soon as this 7-year agreement begins.
Now, all the money, like all the trillions, I mean, how much money does King Charles have now to use?
Under his control through SMI, it's $60 trillion.
Now,
And they're looking to implement, they need 4.5 trillion on top of that per year to implement their transition for a better future through 2030 and beyond.
now, just to put this into perspective, is this like one of the largest funds?
This is the largest business alliance in the world, is the SMI.
Right, which is King Charles Sustainable Markets Initiative.
Yep.
Hmm. Okay, yep, keep on going.
The UAE consensus sets goals and sends signals to the world regarding the urgency of responding to the climate crisis. And they're calling this crisis human caused. So their pathways to 2030 and approaches include tripling renewable energy capacity globally and doubling the global average annual rate of energy efficiency improvements by 2030. So we're going to see a lot of this talk of what needs to happen by 2030, by 2030, by 2030.
Right,
Accelerating.
and bring that back to home, that if you live in a house that has some gas power, gas heat, whatever, they want everything to then be electric. So this is, I mean, some of the changes, and they'll just start taxing you if you're not being compliant. But go on.
Yeah, it's penalizing you if you're not compliant. Penalize. I don't know
Mhm.
what they're going to do with these coal-fired houses. I just have no idea. The next pathway approach is to accelerate efforts towards the phase down of unabated coal power. So we were just discussing that. The third one is to accelerate efforts globally towards net zero emission energy systems utilizing zero and low carbon fuels where before or around mid-century. So that by 2050, they want to be completely net zero. So that's only 27 years away. The next statement is the transitioning away from fossil fuels in energy systems in a just, orderly, and equitable manner by 2050, in keeping with the science. So the phase out of all oil by 2050. Accelerating zero and low emission technologies, including renewables, nuclear, abatement, and removal technologies such as carbon capture and so on. And they want to do low carbon hydrogen production. So here they want to save the earth, but we're going nuclear. Accelerating and substantially reducing non-carbon dioxide emissions globally, including in particular methane emissions by 2030. Accelerating the reduction of emissions from road transport on a range of pathways, including development of infrastructure and rapid deployment of zero and low emission vehicles. We want to go to all battery powered cars. I mean, I'm in California right now, and there's Teslas everywhere. So they're doing a good job in California of implementing their plan, and the people are buying into it.
Right, and I forgot, what year do they want everyone to have an electric car by?
It's going to vary from state to state, but I think California is 2035, if I remember right, and the state of Washington is about the same. So it's going to vary state to state, country to country, but there's a strong push. I'll give an example of what's happening in California. So if you go to Lowe's and Home Depot right now, these are the big stores selling all your everyday needs other than food, and you cannot buy a gas powered lawnmower in the state of California. It's impossible. You can't buy a gas powered chainsaw at Lowe's and Home Depot. So yeah, or a weed eater.
And is that the same you said in Washington State too?
Washington State is doing the same thing, but they're a little bit behind. So that's in the House right now being discussed.
Now, maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but were they wanting to, like, if someone was using gas, that they could actually go to jail?
Yes, $10,000 fine and go to jail in the state of Washington. So that's what they're trying to push through for using a gas powered lawnmower.
Wow.
Now in the state of California, you can use it, but you can't buy it. You can't buy it anymore.
I see. Mm.
So I don't think that's going to be pushed through law yet, but things can change overnight. So we'll see. The next one is to phase out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies and do not address poverty or just transitions as soon as possible. So that is very quick implementation of their agenda towards halting and reversing And then they also want to move further towards halting and reversing deforestation and forest degradation by 2030. So, but we know how that's going to go according to Revelation, because 1/3 of the forest burned up. So,
Very, very interesting. Yeah. Now I want you to all to keep staying tuned because we're going to even talk about other stuff that's in documents. And I want to talk about some things, some alarming things that I found in some of their documents as a result of COP28. But keep on going.
number 50 of their adaptation goal is to protect everyone on Earth through universal coverage of early warning systems against extreme weather and climate change by 2027. So it's only a few years away, and invites development partners, international financial institutions, and operating entities of the financial mechanism to provide support for implementation of the early warnings for all initiatives.
Yeah,
So
now I saw that with the early warning. So what is some alarm going to go off on our phone? Like what are they even talking about?
I would say, based on what we saw in 2023, it's going to probably be an alarm that goes off on your phone. So everybody gets, they've been pushing this for a while. So it'd be, I would say, on your phone, you get alerted. It may come through a mark later on. We don't, that's just, we don't know how advanced that mark's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Attaining climate resilient food and agricultural production, attaining resilience against climate change related health impacts, ... I mean, it is total control. Reducing climate impacts on ecosystems and biodiversity, and accelerating the use of ecosystem-based adaptation and nature-based solutions. So nature is the key to all this. And we see that in Romans 1:25, where they worship the creation rather than the creator. So you're going to see a lot of this throughout the COP, all the COP meetings that they have. They want to increase the resilience of infrastructure and human settlements, substantially reducing the adverse effects of climate change on poverty, eradication, and livelihoods, protecting cultural heritage from the impacts of climate-related risk by developing adaptive strategies for preserving cultural practices and heritage sites. So it's all about the indigenous peoples. We have to go back to how they once lived. You're gonna have to go back to horses. I believe that would be
Horses and teepees.
horses and teepees. In order to save the earth, by 2030, all parties in place must have a country-driven, gender-responsive, participatory, and full transparent national adaptation plans, policy instruments, and planning processes. So that's telling you how far it's a 7-year deal. They have to do this in 7 years.
Right, but the plans that they want each country to have, they want those turned in right away.
Right away. It's months.
Okay, so again, what document were you reading from?
This is the UAE consensus, a 7-year document released December 13th.
Okay, and so I had looked at, and tell me if this is the same thing, the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, outcome of the first global stocktake document.
That's the same document.
Okay, so I was like seeing like number 44. It said 51 parties have submitted national adaptation plans, which the United States was one of them. So they've already like turned in their plans of how they want to implement in each country how we will the way we're supposed to live. Then that was number
Israel's another key player, and they've already turned that in as well.
Okay. And then I saw number 59 on that adaptation plan. It said calls on parties that have not yet done so, so that they can all, okay. So all of their adaptation plans, they said, needs to be put in by 2025. But it looks like still that they're really wanting them even sooner than that. Then number 96, this one I thought was interesting. It says emphasizes the role of government, banks, investors to improving the assessment and management of climate-related financial risks. And then they talked about including taxation. So to how to get all of us to implement their plans is through their taxation. So we will, have to be forced to do whatever they say. But the other thing that alarmed me was the bank thing, because, in China, if you're not doing what they tell you to do, then they'll freeze your accounts. And that number 96 on that adaptation plan, which we'll have the document I'll have it in the description so you can all look up things there yourself. But it looks like that they're going to start doing that kind of thing too, like freezing your bank account if you're not going to be doing what they tell you to do. Don't you think so, Craig?
Yes, that's exactly what will happen. They'll freeze your accounts.
Right,
You have to
right.
pay, and that'll be corporate, probably on a corporate level. So the corporations are the ones everybody's going to have to raise their prices in order to pay for this climate agenda. So
Mm,
you're going to see that through your soda companies, for example, um, a lot of your food production, for example, but your gasoline. So you're going to be taxed more on your fuel consumption. And in the state of Washington, we're already there. So it's like state of California. I'm not familiar with what their taxes are, but it's very high gas prices in the state of California.
yeah, and if there was something I want to talk more about the food, some things that I saw in some of these different documents, and it said here the issue. This was they were talking about how food and our consumption of food has been causing all of these emissions all over the world. And they said, for example, in Brazil, where food and land use, they say, is causing 70% of the emissions in the world. So they're trying to guilt you into thinking, you know what, you better not be eating meat or you better not be eating this because it's causing problems. It's causing drought. It's causing all of this. And then another thing that again that we had talked about with COP28, they said this was the COP when food finally took its place as central to the climate effort. So this food thing is a very, very big issue. And then what, they want to get it to the point where somebody can only have what, one steak once a week? I was reading something about that. And then of course the meat alternative. And they now, for those of you who love animals, and I do, I love animals, and they not only want to change your food, but they want to change the pet's food. And so this really, really alarmed me, Craig. I it just because I'm about to get a new kitty, and I love dogs too. So I love all kinds of animals, but they're wanting to. I won't name which company, but some of the actually two of the very large pet food companies want to change so the pets won't be eating beef, they won't be eating chicken, but they a news thing would be that it would be worm based. So now, what have you been seeing as far as with pet food?
I believe I saw the same thing. So it has to be worm based I don't know what by year, but I did see that.
Right.
And
Right.
as far as those contributions that these nations have to do, they have to submit it by January of 2025. So we're 1 year out,
Okay. Right.
and
And
that's in the UAE consensus. So they have 1 year from the time we're doing this to submit their plans for this for to what remains for of 6 years.
right, right. And you're also going to be talking about some events that there are plans for 2024, more plans of 2024. And also you're going to be getting to a document that just came out from the World Health Organization that's very, very alarming. So where do you want to start?
Well, on December, I'll start with the Terra Carta Accelerator. And there's a document released by King Charles on December 12th, 2023. And it's a 7 year transition plan for a sustainable future. So it says, as a strategic partner for COP28, the Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum Sustainable Markets Initiative expanded focus on industry transition with global leaders to align industry, finance, and all country roadmaps. So King Charles is in charge of the country roadmaps through 2030 through this Business and Philanthropy Climate Forum that's going to be implemented every single COP from now until through 2030. So King Charles is leading the way on this transition for the next 7 years.
Okay, and you've done other videos where you've done extensive research and talked about why you believe King Charles is the Antichrist. Now, for those who are, just watching right now, going, well, he can't be. Well, watch the video and then see all the reasons, and then if you want to make a comment, great. But now some people are going, oh yeah, but King Charles is going to be stepping down. So what do you say to that?
Well, if they read the document, most people read the headline. So if you read it, it's in the next 5 to 10 years. It's possible that gives him 7 years to do his dirty work. That is his plan, and he needs to do his work, and then that's possible that he could step down in 7 years. But I don't believe that's ever going to happen. God's going to put an end to this all. But and we see so document was released on the Sustainable Markets Initiative website. So it states these global CEOs see themselves as the coalition of the willing. So these business and philanthropy speakers, including Bill Gates, we'll include Bill Gates on this because he's one of the speakers. He's the coalition. He's part of the coalition of the willing, trying to guide people their way through corporations. So this is through corporations, and then it provides a roadmap for the countries to follow. So interesting, though, I'll include this. On December 11th, 2017, Tel Aviv affirmed King Charles, then Prince Charles' global leadership in taking climate action by joining the C40 cities. So Tel Aviv is the largest city in Israel that's aligned themselves with King Charles on sustainable cities. That's the 15-minute cities.
Now, I want you to talk about some different events that they're going to be doing in 2024, and also to get to that WHO document, which is World Health Organization document. But I also saw, like, in a White House document that it was talking about concerning the climate and everything, that the government will be involved in facilitating relocation for people if they need to be relocated. Have you seen that word relocation also coming up?
Yes, especially in China. So but they want to relocate everybody into the cities. So nobody's going to be out on the farms. They want everybody in the cities, and that's happening world. That plan's been around for quite a while, actually. On January 4th, they released a document, the World Economic Situation and Prospects 2024 report. And it comes with a foreword by Antonio Guterres. It says, sustainable development is falling woefully short. Hunger and poverty are on the rise, and growing division between countries and economies are preventing an effective response. That sounds like tribulation's coming. As this report makes clear, 2024 is projected to be another tough year ahead. Sluggish global growth is projected to slow further. The debt crisis will continue to spiral. Devastating conflicts and escalating extreme weather are bringing uncertainty and risk to the global economy at large. The result, development delayed and denied. So development of the SDGs is delayed and denied, according to Antonio Guterres in 2024. That sounds like tribulation's coming, because that's going to put a stop to it and they mess up all their plans.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And they keep on talking about a crisis through or a catastrophe, and they talk about aliens, that there'll be something that is going to happen with aliens, and then I heard you talk about that Obama on Netflix, the Obamas have a movie that is about some world catastrophe.
Yeah, I watched the movie. I tried to watch the movie, but I fell asleep. So I did watch the movie in part, but there's a catastrophe, and then everything's controlled. And so they're making cars drive down the road to block all the roads, and it's all these electric Teslas, and the government has control of them, and they block all the roads. But it shows you where we're headed to. On CBS News recently, they're stating that 2024 is bringing about a Black Swan event, and a Black Swan event is, in the finance world, refers to an extremely negative, rare event which is impossible to predict. Such events are random and have widespread ramifications. It can either be positive or negative. The term is inspired by the possibility of seeing a black swan. So they're thinking that 2024 is going to bring about a rare event that could prove catastrophic, and it'll bring about financial regulations, strengthen the financial institutions is the result. They'll strengthen the financial institutions and plug the loopholes. So there's some catastrophic event that they're thinking it's going to happen in 2024. And it'd be like something like Brexit, 9/11 attacks, the financial crash of 2008, et cetera. But it's unpredictable to the observer. So they can't predict. They just don't. There's an event coming they don't know.
Right. That
and it's somehow tied to peace and safety, sudden destruction. And we're in a period right now what I would call as limbo. So we don't know when this thing is going to start. So it says 2024 must be the year we break out of this quagmire. The summit of the futures in 2024 is to advance reforms of today's outdated, dysfunctional, and unjust international financial systems. So there we go. They're going to change everything. In 2024, we must seize the opportunity to create a more inclusive, resilient global economy that works for everyone, everywhere.
So do you think, everyone is talking about like a financial crash, And then when we'll be forced to be on, like a one world currency.
That's where we're headed, is a one world currency. And they'll talk about that at the World Government Forum sometime in 2024. They'll talk about that somewhat at the World Economic Forum towards the end of January as well. Their basic summary of the document released on January 4th was we are in a fragile resilience, mass underlining risk and vulnerabilities. The world proved more resilient than expected in 2023. So they're trying to crash. What they're trying to do is crash the economies to reset the world. And it did not happen in 2023. And so they want 2024 to be their year. Even as multiple shocks arising from conflict and climate change jeopardizing progress towards the SDGs. So we have this whole push of transforming the world through the SDGs. There's a further slowdown in development countries. They're going to, what they're doing in this document is saying the USA is still standing strong, and they're trying to crash the USA, despite aggressively tightening of the monetary systems. So they're stating in this document that a hard landing will come totally unexpected, and we just brought that up with the Black Swan event. The third highlight of their document is industrial policy is being deployed for sustainable development. So all industries are aligning themselves towards sustainability. So less waste is one of them. Carbon capture is another. So they can't release anything into the environment. It's not all bad, but it's the idea, what is behind it is total and absolute control by one individual.
And who is that?
King Charles. It's pretty clear. They go on to say inflation, food security, and poverty is what's going to happen in the near future. So we're going to see high inflation, food insecurity in 2024, and more poverty in 2024 if they don't push their agenda.
Okay, and tell me again.
But actually, the opposite is true. What their agenda is going to push inflation, food insecurity, and poverty.
Yeah, it's true. Tell me again what document this one is.
This is called the World Economic Situation and Prospects 2024 report.
And it came out on January 4th.
Came out on January 4th. Mm-hmm. So higher food prices are expected to increase food insecurity. So that's coming in 2024. Finance and debt challenges are believed to remain in 2024, and expect global monetary tightening in 2024. And that this has been happening since mid 2022, and high inflation. So we've witnessed throughout the whole world the high inflation since middle of 2022. And they have a special focus on this report on Gaza and Israel and how to resolve that focus. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And I will send you that document.
Yeah, that is. Now, is there any more that you could say about how? Now, I also thought that what King Charles said, he wants to be part of that peace plan.
Yes. So he is being updated regularly on the situation. I'm going to say the situation between Gaza and Israel, and he wants to be that man to deliver peace in the Middle East. And that's been discussed actually since as early as January of 2020. By the way, did you see the film that the UAE that COP put out, that we're going to go through hell to arrive at heaven?
Oh my goodness, yes, right, by using the song "The Impossible Dream."
Basically, I'm going to summarize because it's not in front of me, but basically you got to walk, we got to walk through hell to arrive at heaven. And so they're doing this on the COP28 website. They use that song, and it's spoken, not sung, but it's spoken in response to the COP28 consensus that we saw in December of 2023. And so they're playing this song and telling you that tribulation that lies ahead, and it's going to be hell, and then they're going to arrive at their heavenly oasis. And they're following the North Star, which is Satan. But they have a foe, and they can't beat this foe. But the foe is in actuality Jesus Christ.
So North Star. Okay, right, because I saw that the president of COP28 also used that term of following the North Star.
Yeah, it's the North, whatever the North Star is, but we know from Bible that's Satan.
And you know what? To me, what they're really saying is, are you willing to give up all your rights so we can together save the earth? I mean, that's to me what they're saying.
And fight Jesus Christ. Mm. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, that's what they're doing. Romans 1:25 again. So World Health Organization has given a declaration, and it says, we stress that any path to fully achieving the long-term goals of the Paris Agreement must include agriculture and food systems. With 7 years remaining to achieve our shared goals, we intend to strengthen collaboration among our respective ministries, including agriculture, climate, energy, environment, finance, and health, and with diverse stakeholders to achieve the objectives and efforts articulated in this declaration and as appropriate within our national context. So that we're still in the 7 year period of time, and they're still stating we have 7 years left to go. So we are in limbo while we await this confirming of the covenant, and we await to see what happens between Gaza and Israel.
And then you were going to just talk about some upcoming events in 2024. I know that you named some of them, and I think by the time that we have this up, I thought it was interesting, and we mentioned it briefly, but that January 8th, they're having a UFO briefing, or it's on January
Jan
9th.
January 9th. So
And then,
so we have a very interesting calendar. So in January 2024, January 1st, we had the COP28 release of the song that's stating that basically stating that tribulation is just ahead and it's going to be hell. And then on January 4th, we had the launch of the World Economic Situation and Prospects for 2024. On January 9th at 9 a.m., we have a meeting. It's called the Full Committee Member Briefing Notice for Oversight and Accountability on Unidentified Anomalies Phenomena. So on UFOs, that's on January 9th. On January 10th, we have the Global Risk Report launched by the World Economic Forum.
yeah, now I just want to say back to the UFO. I have several videos that I've done with L.A. Marzulli talking about their agenda and saying that they're aliens, but what they actually really are fallen angels and hybrids that could be walking amongst us. But anyway, you can check that out. But go on, Craig.
On January 11th, we have the new wolf moon. And so for the year of 2024, we have 13 new moons in the year of 2024. So the new wolf moon is the most supportive moon phase of the year for starting new projects and setting intentions. On this same day in Boston, USA, we have the International Conference on Peace and Conflict Management being held on January 11th. On January 13th, we have a national call for the March of Palestine. I thought that was pretty interesting. And January 15th through the 19th, we have the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, and their theme is rebuilding trust. And so they're thinking that there's a Black Swan event coming in here somewhere. February 10th begins the year of the dragon. King Charles actually has a coin on the Chinese dragon that presented for 2024. And also I've seen that there's another coin released with King Charles as the heads, and on the tails, the rider of the white horse.
Interesting, which of course
So
the dragon and the white horse, they're all mentioned in the book of Revelation written 2,000 years ago.
so we have two very interesting symbols that are being on these collective coins, showing what is possible in 2024.
Craig, I heard you mention that in the 1800s, there was an image that looked like Charles. What was that?
Oh, that image was the Baal image, Bael, and it has him on spider legs, and it has him with a frog on one shoulder and a cat or leopard on the other shoulder. And so King Charles, he writes letters to the world governments, and those letters are referred to as the spider letters. He's known as the Frog Prince, and his symbol is that of a cat or a leopard, and that's his stamp.
Huh, and those spider letters, they're like basically secret letters, correct?
They're all secret letters. So a few have gotten out over the years, but they're secret letters.
Ah, wow. I wonder how they even got out at all. Um,
I remember him fighting that because he didn't want them released, but I don't know the results of that, what became of it. But yeah,
wow.
his letters are known as spider letters. And this term Baal, and that image is just looks like King Charles.
Oh my goodness, but what was the image from? Was it in a book? What was that?
in the encyclopedia. I believe it's in an encyclopedia is where I found it. So
Okay, very, very interesting. Well, thank you so much, Craig, for all these updates. And please, those watching, subscribe to the channel or share the channel and subscribe because you don't want to miss any of these updates because we're going to be having Craig back on. And also, just thank you for those who've been supporting the channel. It's been a huge blessing, and we have more information in the description of how you can help us and support the channel. And also, we have some of the documents we talked about. It'll be in the description too. Okay, thank you so much. Permanent lockdowns are coming to many cities in the U.S. Craig Bong reveals their plans so you won't be caught by surprise. Click the video to watch now.